The signal wasn't meant for Earth, but humans answered anyway. Part 1, it was a normal Tuesday at the desert listening station. Dr. Alan Mercer walked into the control room with his third cup of coffee. 15 years of working at this SETI station in New Mexico had taught him one thing: space was mostly quiet, at least when it came to intelligent signals. Alan sat down at his usual workstation. The large screens around him showed the usual data streams, radio waves from distant stars analyzed and sorted by the station's computers. Nothing interesting as usual, just the background noise of the universe. "Morning, Dr. Mercer," said Peter Wright, the young technician who had joined the team 6 months ago. Peter still had hope. Alan remembered when he used to have that too. "Morning, Peter. Anything new?" Alan asked out of habit, not expecting any real answer. "Actually, yes." Peter's voice had an unusual edge to it. "The overnight system flagged something strange. Array 7 picked up a signal about 4 hours ago." Alan tried not to get excited. They got false alarms at least once a month. Usually, it was just a satellite or some Earth-based interference. "Show me," he said, rolling his chair over to Peter's station. The screen displayed a waveform unlike anything Alan had seen before. It pulsed with a clear pattern, not random at all. And it wasn't any kind of signal used by Earth satellites or space agencies. "Where did this come from?" Alan asked, suddenly wide awake. "That's the weird part," Peter said, pulling up a star map. "The signal appears to be coming from this direction." He pointed to a spot near the edge of the screen. "But it wasn't aimed at us based on the trajectory. It was meant for somewhere else entirely. We just happened to be in the path." Alan stared at the screen, his heart racing. "Have you told anyone else?" "Just you. Protocol says to inform the senior scientist first." "Good. Let's keep this quiet until we know more." Alan began typing rapidly. "I'm calling in the team." Within 3 hours, the quiet control room had transformed into a hub of activity. 8 scientists huddled around screens, analyzing the signal from every angle. Dr. Susan Taylor, the linguistics expert from the university, stood next to Alan as they watched new data come in. "It's definitely artificial," Susan said. "The pattern is too regular, too complex to be natural. And look at these sections." She pointed to parts of the waveform. "They repeat, but with slight variations, almost like a language." "Can you decode it?" Alan asked. Susan shook her head. "Not easily. We have no reference point, no Rosetta Stone, but we can try." For the next week, the team worked around the clock. They brought in more experts, mathematicians, physicists, even cryptographers, from the government. The signal continued, streaming data toward them at regular intervals. On the 8th day, Alan was asleep on the break room couch when Susan shook him awake. "We've got something," she said, her eyes wide with excitement. "You need to see this." Alan followed her back to the main lab. On the large screen was a series of images, what looked like mathematical formulas, chemical structures, and engineering diagrams. "We think it's instructions," Susan explained. "Instructions for building something." "Building what?" Alan asked. "We're not sure yet. But we've figured out one more thing." Susan pulled up the star map again. This signal was aimed at a star system about 30 light-years away, in the opposite direction from Earth. A system with at least one habitable planet, according to our data, and they're sending instructions to build something, Alan mused. Why would they do that? Dr. William Gray, the astrophysicist, joined them. "Because they need help," he said quietly. "We've been analyzing not just the content, but the method of transmission. This signal has all the hallmarks of a distress call." The room fell silent as the implication sank in. "Someone out there is in trouble," Alan said finally. "And they're asking for help, but not from us." "No," Susan agreed. "We just happen to be in the way, like overhearing a phone call not meant for you." Alan stared at the screens, at the strange patterns and diagrams. "But we heard it, and we can understand at least parts of it." "What are you suggesting?" William asked. "I'm suggesting we answer." The debate that followed was intense. Some team members argued for caution. After all, the signal wasn't meant for humans. Others worried about security risks. What if the something they were being instructed to build was dangerous? But Alan wouldn't back down. 2 days later, he presented his case to the heads of NASA and other space agencies in a closed-door meeting. "We have been searching for signs of intelligent life for decades," he told the grim-faced officials. "Now we have not only found it, but received detailed information from it. Yes, the message wasn't meant for us. Yes, there are risks. But the opportunity is too great to ignore." "What exactly are you proposing, Dr. Mercer?" asked the NASA director. "I propose we build whatever it is these instructions are for, and then we answer the call. Even though it wasn't meant for us?" "Especially because it wasn't meant for us," Alan replied. "Think about it. Whoever sent this signal is advanced, enough to transmit complex data across light years of space. But they're also in trouble. They need help. What better way to introduce ourselves to the galaxy than by answering a call for help?" The debate continued for weeks. Politicians got involved. Military officials raised security concerns. But public opinion, once the story leaked, was overwhelmingly in favor of responding. 3 months after the first detection, Alan stood in the same control room, watching as the newly built transmitter powered up. Based on the alien design but adapted with human technology, it was capable of sending a response along the same path as the original signal. "Are we really doing this?" Peter asked, standing beside him. Alan nodded. "The message is ready. A simple response, letting them know we received their signal and are working to understand it. Plus, some basic information about Earth and humans." "What if they don't want our help?" Susan asked. Alan took a deep breath. "Then at least they'll know they're not alone. That someone heard them." The transmitter hummed as it powered up to full capacity. On the screen, the message they had crafted appeared. Humanity's first intentional communication with an alien civilization. "Signal ready," Peter announced, awaiting final authorization. Alan looked around at the team, at the faces of people who had worked tirelessly to reach this moment. Then he turned back to the console. "Send it," he said. With the press of a button, humanity's answer raced into the stars, towards someone who had never expected to hear from Earth at all. The signal wasn't meant for Earth, but humans answered anyway. Part 2. 6 months passed before they received a response. Dr. Alan Mercer had almost given up hope. Every day he checked the systems, hoping to see something new. Every day, nothing came. Until today, Alan was walking to his car when Peter called him on his phone. "Dr. Mercer, you need to come back. Now." Alan ran back to the control room. Everyone was gathered around the main screen. On it was a new signal pattern, different from the first but clearly using the same transmission method. "When did this come in?" Alan asked, catching his breath. 20 minutes ago, Susan said, her eyes fixed on the screen. "It's a direct response to our message." The new signal was shorter but more complex. It contained more diagrams, more mathematical formulas, and something new. What looked like star maps and navigation instructions. "They're coming," William said quietly. "They're telling us they're coming to Earth." The news spread quickly. Governments around the world held emergency meetings. The United Nations called a special session. Some people panicked. Others celebrated. Religious leaders offered different interpretations of what it all meant. But the scientists focused on one thing: the new set of instructions that had arrived with the response. More detailed plans for building something much bigger than the transmitter. 2 weeks later, Alan stood in the White House Situation Room. Around the table sat the president, military leaders, and other scientists from around the world. "We believe it's some kind of receiver," Alan explained, pointing to the holographic display of the alien design. "Much more powerful than anything we've built before. It would allow for faster, clearer communication." "And you're certain it's not a weapon?" asked General Linda Peterson. "As certain as we can be," Alan replied. "Every part has a clear purpose related to receiving and processing signals." The president looked at the faces around the table. Opinions? Dr. Lisa Coleman spoke up. She was new to the team, a quantum physicist from MIT with expertise in advanced computing systems. I've studied the design extensively, she said. It's beyond our current technology, but not so far beyond that we can't build it with some effort. What's most interesting is that the signal contains instructions that are adapted for our level of technology, as if they analyzed our response and determined what we're capable of building. That sounds concerning, the general said. I see it differently, Lisa countered. They're meeting us where we are, helping us take the next step, not giving us technology thousands of years beyond our understanding. After hours of debate, the decision was made. Project Beacon was born, a global effort to build the alien receiver. A new facility was constructed outside Houston, drawing scientists and engineers from around the world. Lisa was named head of the engineering team. Alan joined as scientific advisor. The work was challenging. Many of the components required materials or manufacturing techniques that humans had never used before. It's like they're teaching us, Lisa told Alan one night as they looked over the latest test results. Each part we build teaches us something new about physics, about materials science, about energy systems. Do you ever worry about what might happen when they arrive? Alan asked. Lisa nodded. Of course, but I also think about what might happen if we don't help them. They reached out for a reason. They need something. Security around the project was tight. Captain Jack Rivera, a former Navy SEAL, led the team protecting the facility. He watched the scientists with a mixture of awe and concern. I've never seen anything like this, he told Lisa during a security briefing. How can you be so sure? This is safe? I'm not, Lisa admitted. But sometimes you have to take a leap of faith. Jack frowned. In my experience, faith can get people killed. So can fear, Lisa replied. As the months passed, progress accelerated. Components that had seemed impossible to build at first became reality. The receiver took shape, a strange mixture of human and alien technology. News reports speculated about when the aliens might arrive. Some reports claimed they were already in the solar system. Others said it would be years before they reached Earth. No one really knew. The breakthrough came on a rainy Tuesday, 18 months after the first signal. The team had finally assembled the core of the receiver, a quantum processing system unlike anything humans had built before. Ready for the first test? Lisa asked, looking around at the tired but excited faces of her team. Alan nodded. Let's see if it works. They powered up the system slowly. Status lights blinked green across the monitoring stations. The core began to hum with energy. All systems nominal, reported one of the engineers. No issues detected. Activating quantum resonance field, Lisa said, pressing a sequence of controls. The air in the center of the receiver seemed to shimmer and bend. A sphere of light appeared, growing larger until it was about 3 feet across. What is that? Jack asked, his hand instinctively moving toward his weapon. It's working, Lisa breathed. It's creating a quantum field that can receive and process signals much faster than normal space-time allows. Inside the sphere, patterns of light began to form, not random, but structured, like writing or symbols. Are you recording this? Alan asked urgently. Everything, one of the technicians assured him. The symbols shifted and changed for nearly 10 minutes before the sphere began to shrink. When it finally vanished, the room was silent. What did it say? Jack finally asked. I don't know yet, Lisa admitted, but I think we just received our first real-time communication from them. It took 3 days to decode the message. The team worked around the clock, building on what they had learned from the previous signals. Alan called an emergency meeting when they finally had a translation. They'll be here in 6 months, he told the assembled scientists and government officials. They're sending a small ship, just a few individuals. They say they're grateful for our help and that we're the first species to ever respond to a signal that wasn't meant for us. What do they want? Asked the president's science advisor. Alan took a deep breath. They say they need our help. Their civilization is in danger and somehow we might be the ones who can save them. As the meeting broke up, Jack pulled Lisa aside. Do you believe them? He asked quietly. Lisa considered the question. I believe they're coming. I believe they need help. Beyond that, she shrugged. I guess we'll find out when they get here. Back in the lab, the receiver continued to operate, opening brief windows into the quantum field every few hours. Each time, more information came through, more detail, about the approaching visitors. The world held its breath and waited. The signal wasn't meant for Earth, but humans answered anyway. Part 3. The day the aliens arrived was sunny and clear. 6 months had passed exactly as they promised. The world had prepared as best it could. Military forces stood ready, but not visible. Leaders had agreed to present a peaceful welcome. Alan, Lisa, and Jack stood on the landing pad that had been built next to the beacon facility. Around them were government officials, scientists, and a small group of journalists who would broadcast the event to the world. Are you nervous? Lisa asked Alan quietly. Terrified, he admitted. But excited too. Jack said nothing. His team was positioned strategically around the area, ready for anything. He hoped they wouldn't be needed. The first sign was a flash of light in the clear blue sky. Then a small shape appeared, growing larger as it descended. The alien ship wasn't what anyone expected. It wasn't a flying saucer or anything like the ships in movies. Instead, it looked almost like a large teardrop, shimmering with colors that seemed to shift and change as it moved. No visible engines, Lisa noted. No heat signature either. The ship came to a stop about 50 feet above the landing pad. It hovered there silently for a few moments. Then a beam of light extended from the bottom of the ship to the ground. Stay. Calm, Alan reminded everyone. The light beam widened, and within it, shapes began to form. 3 figures materialized on the landing pad. The beam retracted and the ship rose higher into the sky, taking up a position about a mile above. Everyone stared at the 3 aliens. They were roughly human-shaped, but taller and more slender. Their skin was pale blue and seemed to shimmer, slightly, almost like it wasn't quite solid. They had no hair and their eyes were large and completely black. They wore simple, form-fitting clothing that looked like it might be made of some kind of metal, but it moved like fabric. One of the aliens stepped forward. It carried a small device in its hand. The alien spoke, making sounds that were musical but impossible for human ears to understand. The device in its hand glowed, and then it spoke again, this time in clear English. We greet the people of Earth. We thank you for answering our call, though it was not meant for you. Alan stepped forward. We welcome you to Earth. I am Dr. Alan Mercer. The alien bowed slightly. You may call me Nix. These are my associates, Lyra and Orion. Those aren't your real names, Lisa said. No, Nix agreed. Our names would be difficult for you to pronounce. We have chosen names from your star patterns, for simplicity. The president's representative stepped forward and made a formal welcome speech. Nix listened politely, then turned back to Alan. You are the one who first understood our signal. Who decided to answer? Yes, Alan said. We were curious. Curiosity is a valuable trait, Nix said. Not all species share it. After the formal greetings, the aliens were escorted into the beacon facility. Security was tight, but the aliens didn't seem to mind. They looked around with obvious interest at the human technology. In the main conference room, Nix placed a small object on the table. It projected a 3-dimensional image of a star system. This is our home, Nix said. Or, it was. We call ourselves the Lumina. We evolved on the 3rd planet of this star, which you call HD 189733. That's over 60 light-years away, Lisa said. Your signal was not directed at you, Nix finished. It was meant for another colony of our kind, in a different system. We did not know that their world had already fallen. Fallen to what? Jack asked. Nix's expression changed subtly. It was hard to read alien emotions, but Alan thought he saw sadness. We call them the harvesters, Nix said. They are not alive as you or I understand life. They are machines, created long ago by a species that no longer exists. They were designed to gather resources, Now they consume entire worlds. The image changed to show a different star system. A massive structure orbited the star, with smaller objects moving between it and the planets. They strip planets of all useful materials, Nix continued. Metals, rare elements, anything they can use to build more of themselves. They leave nothing but empty husks behind. And they destroyed your world? Alan asked. Yes, we saw them coming. We had time to evacuate some of our people, to send ships to different systems. We believed our colony in the system we were signaling would be safe. We were wrong. How many of your people survived? Lisa asked. On this ship? 322. There may be other ships that escaped to other systems. We do not know. Jack leaned forward. Why come to us? What do you want from Earth? Nix turned to look at him. We detected your response to our signal. It was unexpected. No other species has ever intercepted one of our transmissions and understood it well enough to reply. It suggested you might have certain qualities we need. What qualities? Alan asked. Adaptability, creativity. Your species appears to be able to make intuitive leaps that our own cannot. You built our receiver with technology far less advanced than what we use, yet you made it work. That should not have been possible. Lisa smiled slightly. We're good at improvising. Yes, Nix agreed. And that might save both our peoples. Nix touched the projector again. The image changed to show a map of the galaxy, with several points of light highlighted. The harvesters follow patterns. They move from one resource-rich system to another. Based on their movements over the past 1,000 years, we have calculated their most likely course. Nix pointed to a spot on the map. This is your solar system. And this? Nix's finger moved to another spot, not far away in galactic terms. This is where the harvesters are now. The room fell silent. How long do we have? Jack asked. At their current speed, approximately 5 of your years before they enter this solar system. 5 years isn't much time, Alan said. No, Nix agreed, but it is more than many worlds get. And you have us. We know their weaknesses, their patterns, and we have technology we can share. If these harvester things are so advanced, how can we possibly fight them? One of the government officials asked. Nix turned to look at the human. Because they are machines. They calculate. They follow patterns. They do not adapt quickly to the unexpected. Humans, from what we have observed, are very good at the unexpected. So what do we do now? Lisa asked. Now, Nix said, we prepare. We teach you what we know. You teach us what you know. Together we might find a way to do what my people alone could not. Later that evening, Alan stood outside the facility, looking up at the stars. Jack joined him. Do you believe them? Jack asked. Yes, Alan said. I think they're telling the truth. About everything? Alan considered. I think they're desperate. They've lost everything. They're putting their hopes in us because they have nowhere else to turn. That's a lot of pressure, Jack said. Yes, but maybe that's what humanity needs. Something to unite us. A common purpose. In the distance, the alien ship hovered silently in the night sky, a new star among the familiar constellations. A reminder that Earth was not alone in the universe, and that sometimes answering a call meant accepting a responsibility that came with it. The signal wasn't meant for Earth, but humans answered anyway. Part 4 2 years passed quickly. The world changed more in those 2 years than in the previous 50. The beacon facility grew into a sprawling complex of buildings, laboratories, and testing grounds. People called it Beacon City now. Alan walked through the main research building, nodding to scientists as he passed. Some were human, some were Lumina. They worked side by side, learning from each other. He entered the main development lab where Lisa was working with a team on a new device. The lab table held what looked like a silver sphere about the size of a basketball. How's it coming? Alan asked. Lisa looked up and smiled. Good. The shield generator is almost ready for testing. Nix thinks it will work this time. Nix stood on the other side of the table. The Lumina had become a familiar sight around Beacon City. Humans had gotten used to their shimmering blue skin and tall, slender bodies. The problem was in the energy matrix, Nix explained. Human power systems are different from ours. We had to adapt. This was how it had been for 2 years. The Lumina shared their advanced technology. Humans found ways to make it work with the materials and energy sources available on Earth. Together, they built defenses that neither could have created alone. Jack entered the lab, followed by Diane Foster. Diane was the head of the new Space Defense Force. Jack was her second in command. The first fleet of defense ships is ready, Jack announced. 10 vessels, all equipped with the new drive systems. How fast are they? Alan asked. Faster than anything humans have built before, Diane said. Not as fast as a Lumina ship, but fast enough to reach Mars in hours instead of months. We're making progress, Alan said. Not fast enough, Jack replied. 3 years left until the harvesters arrive. We need more ships, more weapons. We're building as quickly as we can, Lisa said. Later that day, Alan met with the Global Defense Council. Representatives from every nation sat around a large table. On screens at the front of the room were images of the defense preparations. The orbital stations are 70% complete, reported the Russian representative. They will be fully operational within 6 months. The underwater base in the Pacific is behind schedule, added the Chinese delegate. We need more resources. The meeting continued, with each nation reporting on their progress. It wasn't perfect. There were arguments, disagreements about priorities, but they were working together better than Alan had ever believed possible. After the meeting, Alan found Nix standing near a window, looking out at the busy construction yard where new defense ships were being built. Your people work well under pressure, Nix observed. We always have, Alan agreed. Throughout our history, humans have done amazing things when our backs are against the wall. That may be what saves you, Nix said. My people had centuries of peace before the harvesters came. We had forgotten how to fight. But you remember how to build, Alan pointed out. Without your technology, we wouldn't have a chance. That night, Alan couldn't sleep. He walked to the observation deck on top of the main building. To his surprise, Lisa was already there looking up at the stars. Trouble sleeping? She asked. Too much on my mind, he admitted. Lisa nodded. Me too. They stood in silence for a while, watching the night sky. Among the stars, new lights moved. Orbital defense platforms, shuttles, and the larger ships of the growing Earth fleet. Do you ever regret answering that signal? Lisa asked quietly. Alan thought about it. No. If we hadn't, we would have had no warning. The harvesters would have just appeared one day, and that would have been it for Earth. I wonder what would have happened if the signal had reached its intended destination, Lisa mused. Nix told me their colony was already gone, Alan said. No one would have answered. So it was luck? That their signal passed Earth at just the right moment, at just the right angle? Or fate, Alan said with a small smile. If you believe in that kind of thing. The next morning, alarms blared across Beacon City. Alan rushed to the command center. Jack, Lisa, and Nix were already there, standing around the main display. What's happening? Alan asked. We've detected something entering the solar system, Jack said grimly, near Neptune's orbit. The harvesters? Alan felt a chill. They're early? No, Nix said. The signature is different, smaller, faster. Nix looked at the readings, then suddenly straightened. It's one of ours, a Lumina ship. Hours later, the new arrival was in Earth orbit. It was similar to Nix's ship, but smaller, designed for speed rather than carrying capacity. In the communication center, Nix spoke with the captain of the arriving vessel. The alien language sounded like music to human ears. When the conversation ended, Nix turned to the humans with a grave expression. The harvesters have changed course, Nix announced. They're moving faster than we predicted, and they're heading directly for the solar system. How much time do we have? Jack demanded. 1 year, maybe less. The room fell silent. Why the change? Lisa asked. Why are they coming here early? They detected energy signatures from our defense preparations, Nix explained. The new drive systems, the orbital platforms. They recognized Lumina technology. So they know we're here, Alan said, and they know we're preparing for them. Yes, Nix confirmed. But there is other news as well. The ship brings word that other Lumina vessels survived. They have found refuge in distant systems, and some have made contact with other spacefaring species. Are they coming to help us? Jack asked. Nix hesitated. No, the other survivors believe this system is already lost. They advise us to evacuate, to join them in the safety of distant sectors. And what did you tell them? Alan asked quietly. I told them we would stay, Nix said simply. That humans have shown us a different way, not running, but standing to fight. Even if it's hopeless? Jack asked. Is it? Nix looked around at the humans. In 2 years, you have accomplished what my people could not in centuries. You've adapted our technology in ways we never imagined. You've built weapons we never conceived of. Humans may be the only species in the galaxy who could face the harvesters and have any chance of winning. Lisa smiled faintly. No pressure. So we have 1 year, Alan said. 1 year to be ready for a fight that no one has ever won before. Yes, Nix agreed. But you will not fight alone. We may be few, but the Lumina will stand with you. Outside, the window, Earth continued to turn, beautiful and blue. 1 more year of peace before a storm that would decide the fate of both humans and Lumina. The signal wasn't meant for Earth, but humans answered anyway. Part 5. The year passed in a blur of activity. Every human on Earth worked toward a single goal: survival. Old enemies became allies. Resources that once went to wars and luxuries now built ships and weapons. Children learned about the harvesters in school. Adults trained for evacuation or defense roles. Alan stood on the bridge of the EDF Defiant, Earth's largest defense ship. Through the viewing window, he could see Earth below, beautiful and blue. In orbit around it were hundreds of defense platforms and smaller ships. It was an impressive sight. But would it be enough? Final system check complete, Lisa reported, from her station. All weapons and shields at full capacity. Jack stood at the command position, now wearing the uniform of an admiral. Diane had been promoted to overall command of Earth's defenses, and Jack had taken her place leading the space fleet. All ships report ready, Jack said. Defense platforms are online. Ground-based weapons are standing by. Nix entered the bridge. More Lumina had arrived over the past year. Survivors from other colonies. Not many, fewer than 100. But each brought knowledge and skills that helped the defense effort. The long-range sensors have detected them, Nix said quietly. The harvester fleet has entered the solar system. Alan took a deep breath. This was it. After 3 years of preparation, the moment had arrived. How many? Jack asked. 17. Large vessels, Nix replied. And approximately 200 smaller craft, about what we expected. Jack nodded grimly. We have 30 main ships and 500 fighters, plus the orbital platforms. Numbers aren't everything, Lisa reminded them. No, Nix agreed. Strategy matters more, and humans have proven quite creative in that area. The plan they had developed was risky. Instead of defending Earth directly, they would engage the harvesters near Jupiter. The massive gas giant's moons had been transformed into a trap. Weapons hidden beneath the ice of Europa, mines scattered throughout the rings of Saturn, and a surprise that the harvesters would never expect. All ships moved to Phase 1 positions, Jack ordered. The Earth fleet moved away from the planet, taking up formation near Jupiter. The waiting began. Do you think they know we're here? Lisa asked Nix. They know something is here, Nix replied. They detect the energy signatures, but harvesters do not think as we do. They calculate resources and threats. They do not imagine or anticipate like humans do. Let's hope that gives us an advantage, Alan said. 3 days later, the Harvester fleet appeared. Their ships were like nothing humans had seen before, not sleek or beautiful like Lumina vessels, but massive, rough constructions of metal and strange materials. They looked like floating mountains of technology, with pieces jutting out at odd angles. "They're ugly," Jack commented. "They're efficient," Nix corrected. "Built only for their purpose, to consume and rebuild." "They're entering the Jupiter system," Lisa reported, moving toward the inner moons. Jack straightened. "All ships, prepare to engage. Execute Phase 1. The Earth fleet moved forward, weapons ready. But instead of attacking directly, they launched what appeared to be a retreat. The ships fired briefly, then turned and fled deeper into the Jupiter system. The Harvester ships followed just as planned. They moved past the outer moons, heading toward what they perceived as easy targets. "They're in position," Lisa announced. "Europa station is ready." "Now," Jack ordered. On Europa, hidden weapons powered up. They fired not at the Harvester ships, but at Jupiter itself. Massive energy beams struck the giant planet's atmosphere. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a storm began to form, larger and faster than any storm humans had ever seen. Jupiter's atmosphere churned violently. The Great Red Spot, a storm that had existed for centuries, suddenly expanded. Lightning unlike anything on Earth flashed through the clouds. "Energy readings are off the scale," Lisa reported. "The reaction is working better than we expected." The plan was Alan's idea, based on something Nix had mentioned. Harvester ships were vulnerable to certain types of electromagnetic energy. Jupiter's atmosphere, properly excited, could generate that energy on a massive scale. The storm grew until it was larger than Earth itself. Lightning reached out from the planet like glowing tentacles, striking the nearest Harvester ships. The vessels shuddered as energy surged through them. "It's working," Alan said quietly. 2 of the smaller Harvester ships went dark, drifting helplessly, but the others adapted quickly. They moved away from Jupiter, changing course to avoid the storm. "Phase 2, Jack ordered. The Earth fleet regrouped and engaged directly. Ships fired weapons based on Lumina technology but enhanced by human innovation. The battle was fierce. Earth vessels were destroyed. Harvester ships were damaged. Space around Jupiter lit up with weapons fire and explosions. On the Defiance Bridge, Alan watched the tactical display. The plan was working, but at a heavy cost. "We've lost the Phoenix and the Orion," Lisa reported. "The Tokyo is heavily damaged." "The Harvesters have lost 6 vessels," Nix added, "but the larger ships remain mostly undamaged." Jack studied the display. "Time for Phase 3. All ships fall back to secondary positions." The Earth fleet pulled back, regrouping near Saturn. The Harvesters followed cautiously, now aware that their enemy was not as primitive as they had first appeared. Saturn defense. "Grid is active," Lisa reported. "Ring mines are armed." As the Harvester fleet entered Saturn's orbit, hundreds of hidden mines activated. They had been placed throughout the planet's rings disguised as ordinary ice chunks. Now they moved toward the Harvester ships, attaching to their hulls. "Detonation in 3, 2, 1. Jack counted down. The mines exploded simultaneously, not with conventional explosions, but with directed energy pulses that disrupted the Harvester's control systems. 3 more large ships and dozens of smaller ones went dark. But the Harvesters adapted again. The remaining ships changed formation, protecting each other. They continued toward Earth, bypassing Saturn entirely. "They're learning," Nix observed. "Faster than expected." "So do we," Jack replied. "All ships, execute final phase." The Earth fleet regrouped once more, this time near Mars, the last line of defense before Earth itself, but now they had a new ally. The second Lumina ship that had arrived a year ago had not been idle. It had traveled to Venus, where it deployed a special device deep in the planet's atmosphere. "Venus station reports ready," Lisa said. "Activate it," Jack ordered. On Venus, the device powered up. It sent a signal unlike any the Harvesters had encountered before. Not an attack, but a message. A complex mathematical sequence that the Harvesters would automatically try to decode. "They're slowing," Nix reported. All harvester vessels are processing the signal. Now, Jack said. All ships, full attack. The Earth fleet surged forward, weapons blazing. Caught in the process of analyzing the signal, the harvester ships responded slowly. One by one, they fell to the combined attack of Earth and Lumina technology. Hours later, it was over. The last harvester ship drifted powerless in space. Earth had won. On the bridge of the Defiant, the crew cheered. Alan looked at Nix, who seemed stunned. We did it, Alan said. We actually did it. Yes, Nix agreed quietly. You did what no other species has done before. You defeated the harvesters. We defeated them, Lisa corrected. Humans and Lumina together. Jack looked out at the stars. There will be more, won't there? More harvesters out there in the galaxy. Yes, Nix admitted. But now we know they can be beaten, and we can warn others, teach them what we've learned. Alan smiled. Not bad for a species that wasn't supposed to hear the signal in the first place. Perhaps, Nix said thoughtfully. The signal found exactly who it was meant to find after all. Earth continued to turn below them, still blue, still beautiful, and for the first time in years its future was secure. The signal wasn't meant for Earth, but humans had answered anyway, and in doing so they had changed the course of galactic history forever.